I will talk to Leroy. I believe it's Leroy Brown, correct?
Yeah, that's right, Leroy Brown.
Okay. Do you want to use this microphone, actually?
Sure. Let's switch seats.
I can't hear you. When the other microphone, I cannot talk to you. Sorry for this delay.
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you very well now.
All right. Yeah, let me put that phones on if I don't.
Leroy, do you want to?
Okay. I'm good.
Do you want to talk to us about your zines or your books? I know that you draw comics, which is something a lot of people at Zine Fest this year also do. So do you want to talk about your book a little bit and maybe your concept behind your comics?
Sure. Well, thanks, first of all, for inviting me to come to the show, Lindsay. I really appreciate
Well,
it.
of course, we're very inclusive at Zine Fest.
I
We have to thank
appreciate
Jeff
that.
for having us as well.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff, for having us on the show. It's awesome. And I want to thank Shane as well, because without him, I wouldn't have known about Zine Fest. And Shane and I met at the JMV Comic Book Show a couple of months ago, and we hit it off, and we're talking about some of the same things that we like, underground comics and zines. And Shane told me about the Zine Fest, and I was really interested to find out more about it. And so I'm really glad to be part of it this year. I just moved to Houston about 3 years ago. So
Okay.
yeah, for me, it's great to be finding out all the cool cultural stuff that's a little bit off the mainstream radar. I lived in New York for a long time, and I was doing comics up there, and a lot of underground stuff. And I didn't per se do zines, but I did a lot of flyer art. You know, I would just design crazy flyers and then go staple them to phone poles and stuff like that.
Cool.
Nonsensical flyers, that made no sense whatsoever. But I just, sort of like, street art and stuff like that. So
There's definitely a strong connection between zines and street art.
Right. And poster art. And I was doing underground comics. I got some stuff published in the East Village Eye, which was underground, sort of the, underground East Village newspaper down there. And that's kind of how I started into comics. And fast forward, several years, decades, and now I'm in Houston. I've been drawing comics on the internet. And I came up with this concept for my comic that's like a sort of an old-fashioned newspaper-style comic, but I'll publish it on the internet. I decided that.
And what is the name of your comic?
It's
Just
called
make sure
Ice
you
Cubes.
Let everybody know that.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Ice
the
Cubes.
The name of the comic is Ice Cubes, and it's online at icecubescomic.com. And it's sort of the adventure of 4 characters. There's 3 animals and 1 human. I don't know why. It sort of all just popped in my head all at once, and I just started writing the comic. And it's essentially a Inupiaq Eskimo person, and then there's a polar bear, a walrus, and a penguin who's not supposed to be in the North Pole, but he's there anyway. And the comic sort of developed into sort of this sort of search for identity. Each one of these characters has is engaged in the search for their own identity. What are they? How do they interact with each other, and what are they doing there? And the humans talking to the animals talking to each other, and the penguin's not supposed to be there, but he's there anyway. And it's sort of, this comic just sort of developed all on its own. I really didn't have to think about it too much. But anyway, I've been doing it a few years on the internet, and I always, from the start, wanted to print it, or at least get it out, in a tangible format that you could hold in your hand. That was my whole idea.
Right. So did you want to, you have your book with you here. It looks really nice.
Thank you very much.
Did you want to try to read one? I know it's kind of hard to read a comic because a lot of comics, what you read is the visuals. But if you want to try, or if you want, I can ask you some more questions.
Yeah, both is fine. Either way is fine. I decided to go ahead with this book. It took me a while because I wanted to do it in a specific way, and I ended up setting up a Kickstarter project for it, and I was very tentative about that. I had no idea sort of how that worked and if it would work, and so it did eventually, and I was able to get the book together and get it printed. So I'll go ahead and read one or two of the comics they're one-offs. You know, they're just like a regular comic strip, but I try to insert a little bit more meaning than just sort of straight up humor into them. So anyway, here's a comic where the walrus and the penguin meet for the first time. So the walrus is like, "What's up?" And the penguin's like, "Yo, you down?" And the walrus is like, "I'm down." And the penguin's like, "Yo, what up?" That's the strip. The next one's like, the walrus's name is Eggman. So the next one's like, "Yo, Eggman, what's on the down low?" And the walrus goes, "Humpty Dumpty, dude." And the penguin goes, "You crack me up, yo." And the walrus goes, "Right on." So, I don't know, figure out what that's supposed to mean.
So I know that you have had tables at other things before. What attracts you to more DIY, do-it-yourself events like Zine Fest? Is there something that you particularly like about them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even though this comic strip, like on the surface, looks very mainstreamy, and it's not necessarily, in your face, political or anything like that, I do like to try to insert, a little bit more meaning into it than just a plain newspaper comic strip. And I've always been involved in sort of the underground culture stuff, scene, and I wanted to find out more about, the scene here in Houston too. So
cool. Well, I'm really glad that you're going to be joining us this year.
Thanks.
And
definitely,
we're running out of time, so I want to make sure I get Victoria to come in here and talk a little bit with me. I'm trying to understand the hand signals Jeff is making to me right now, but I don't. Okay, we have time. Okay, good.